Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and this morning I have a problem. Now as you can see, I'm in the greenhouse, and I'm sitting here in front of a container of kohlrabis. Now, half of this container is purple Vienna, and the other half is quick star. I do have a small problem with bugs here, but that's not really my big problem. My big problem is that while my quick stars are doing just great, and they are bulbing up nicely, my purple Vienna is not. So I went online, and I said, okay, this is the second time this has happened to me. Is it harder to make purple Vienna bulb than it is to make any of the white kohlrabis? They're actually a pale green bulb. I've done quick star, I've done Terek, I've done Conan. Those are all this pale green color. And then I've done purple Vienna, and the only one I've had trouble getting to bulb is purple Vienna. So the internet tells me, and 3 articles said the same thing, and they weren't exact copies of one another. That's one of the things that always drives me crazy, when literally somebody has plagiarized one article and thrown it into another article, and they haven't even bothered to change where a comma is. But these were all what I call pretty reputable sources, and they said, well, if your kohlrabi is not bulbing, it could be because of a lack of light, insufficient nutrition, insufficient water, or overcrowding. I'm like, wow, that's really specific. Not. Okay, so these plants obviously are all getting the same amount of light. I rotate this around once in a while if I'm concerned about it at all. They're all getting the same amount of water. They're all getting the same amount of nutrition. So my only thought was that the purple kohlrabis may be more susceptible to problems that are involving being crowded. So what I decided I would do today is get in here and get some of the purple kohlrabis out. Now the one I'm kind of surprised with is this one on the edge, because you know, it's on the edge. But it has a buddy next to it that apparently the seeds were stuck together or something. So what I'm going to try and do is, where I can, I'm going to dig them up, if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to. And if I can't, I'm just going to cut them off, and I think that's what's going to have to happen. I had hoped to be able to literally just like pull them out. But in this case, I would damage the one next door, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is trim out anybody who's obviously crowding. Now we could eat these leaves. I'll save these because we have eaten kohlrabi leaves before. They're actually tasty. I'll trim out any of the ones that don't have bug holes in them. So they're saying 4 to 6 inches apart, and I checked all my seed packets this morning, and they all say 4 to 5 except for those that say 4 to 6. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Now these 2 guys, for instance, are literally right next to one another. They're not having a problem. We do know that some groups, some things are more picky than others, so we'll chop out a bunch of these guys to see what happens. Other than that we get to eat kohlrabi leaves. So I'm just going to view this as harvesting kohlrabi leaves instead of harvesting kohlrabis. Even my spinach, unfortunately, yesterday for our spinach salad had some holes in it. We have something we don't usually have in November this year, and that is moths. Our weather is way warmer than it should be, And Henry and I have discussed this a couple times lately, that our winter birds have not come in. Normally we have a bunch of dark-eyed juncos that come in for the winter, and they're not here. But what we do have is we have a lot of flycatchers, and they're having a wonderful time eating moths. However, there are still getting moths in here, and I've gotten some worms. I killed a couple this morning in here, and I've gotten a couple off the tomatoes. They're all cabbage wormy sort of things. They just do a bit of damage on the leaves. They don't hurt any of the things that we're eating, like the kohlrabis themselves. One of the things that's nice about kohlrabis is they have such a tough outer skin on the bulb that even if you do get something like a major infestation of thrips or something like that, when you peel off that skin, it never seems to get through, knock on wood. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going through here and seeing what I can find in terms of spacing these guys out. So this guy here now has plenty of space, and so does that guy. And I'm a little skeptical. I have to admit that everybody else is doing fine except these guys. It's very frustrating. And is it possible that their seeds stick together more? Yeah, it is possible, I suppose, but still frustrating. So I'm just going to have to clip these guys out because I can't even begin to pull out. I'll damage the plants next to them if I just pull them out. So we're getting kohlrabi greens out of the deal. We just cook up kohlrabi greens the same way as we would any green. They're a mild cabbagey sort of a flavor, as I recall. I haven't eaten them in a while. We have the previous kohlrabis, the most recent kohlrabis we ate were older, and therefore the greens were no good. But the bulb was just awesome. I actually discovered yesterday, I forget what I was reading. Oh, I was reading a Johnny's catalog. You know, a little light reading. I was actually doing research on kohlrabis, and I discovered that there is such a thing as a storage kohlrabi. And storage kohlrabis get huge. So normally we harvest our kohlrabi bulbs when they're about that big. So say 2 to 3 inches. We don't usually get them any bigger than that. And they're delicious. But there is a storage kohlrabi that you harvest when they're 8 inches in diameter, and they'll hold for up to 4 months. So now I'm thinking about that. That Johnny's had that seed, and I'm thinking about that because I'm like, okay, something else that could be storage. And the regular kohlrabis hold pretty darn well. They will like do well in a refrigerator. Now that guy came out roots and all. I may see if I could replant him. I put him in the shade. Oops. I just tugged on him and he came out. So he was too crowded. And I just think it's weird that, like I say, I don't know whether some of the purple seeds tend to stick together more or something. I planted everything at the same time, the same day in here. And the only thing I've had trouble with, and this is the second time this has happened, I had the same thing happen last year, and our assumption was that it was just too cold, because all the regular kohlrabis did fine. The Conans did fine. The Terric did fine. I don't remember if we did Quick Star or not. Yeah, we did Quick Star too. They did fine. Everybody did fine except for the purple Viennas. So my current conclusion is they may just not be a great choice for us because they may be a little too fussy for our current circumstances. Because to be blunt, I'm always trying to cram in stuff. I'm going to try transplanting these guys. If they make it, that'll be awesome. If they don't make it, oh well. They got a second shot. Their buddies who are getting harvested are turning into greens. So think of that as an option. So I am pruning this out pretty heavily here, trying to get these plants a solid farther apart. And I'll be the first one to admit that we kind of push our spacing a lot of times. But a lot of those spacings don't have anything to do with anything other than harvest for commercial purposes. With the regular kohlrabis, I find, for instance, and the same thing with the cabbages and stuff, I'm usually planting them a little tighter than they recommend. But what will happen is, as I harvest out, like say with these pak choi over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pak choi in a little pot, 10-gallon pot. There's a couple of them that are bigger, then there's a couple of them that are medium sized, and then there's a teeny one. As I take those bigger ones, the others will have more space and they will just go for it. Now, if they've been really severely crowded, they will go from not ready to ready much more quickly, and they won't hold. One of the things I like about some of the varieties that we grow is that we specifically choose varieties when we can that will hold for a longer period of time. So one of the things we like about kohlrabis, for instance, is, okay, so make believe I have a 2-inch bulb. I don't feel like kohlrabi this week, or I have enough of something else that will die or croak or mold or something if I don't eat it right away. I can let that sit there and it'll be fine, and I can hold it for a week or 2, maybe even 3, and not damage the quality of that food. So we tend to choose things that will hold well in the field, as they say, anyway, even though this is a greenhouse, not a field. Same concept. I also try to choose versatile varieties that I have from experience. I know that when this one is done and I harvest this bigger one, all of a sudden these littler guys are going to have more room, and they're just going to go poosh, and they're going to grow much faster. The kohlrabis will do that. As I harvest out the bigger ones, the little ones will do that, except the purple Vienna is not cooperating. It doesn't seem to like that idea. I have just thinned out these guys, and they are an absolute minimum of 5 inches apart. Okay, we're going to see if this makes a difference. My response at this point is, if these don't start bulbing up immediately and get happy immediately, I'm not going to grow them anymore. That's twice in a row that they haven't done well when everybody else around them has done well. It doesn't mean they're a fail for people maybe in an open field situation, but for me, usually working in pots, just not working. So what I am going to do is, these kohlrabis that I pulled out, I know from experience they will perk up and go really quickly if they're going to. So here we go in the pot. They're the actual spot where they go into the dirt, because they wander around. The plant's kind of noodly. They're all at least 5 inches apart on this side. And see how crowded they are on that side? And they're having no trouble at all bulbing up. Well, I hope you find this interesting, useful, something like that. We're in sort of a in-between phase in the greenhouse. We have kohlrabis that'll be ready in another month or less. We have bush beans that I'm harvesting occasional seeds off of. Our goal is to try harvesting a bunch of the seeds and see what kind of germination rate we get out of them and all that sort of thing. The cabbages are not heading yet, which is expected. I could eat this pak choi right now if I wanted to. I'm trying to let it get bigger. The next time we do a chicken, we'll use one of the pak choi, we'll use the biggest guy, which is probably going to be that guy. So we're in that in between, not a huge amount of production, but still something. We had a big spinach salad yesterday, huge. We're still getting a bunch of tomatoes, not as many, but that's okay. I have 4-gallon bags of tomatoes in the freezer right now. Pretty soon I'm either going to have to, well, I need to do another bag today. And actually I need to check, because I think I was poking at these guys last night. I think some of these granaderos are ready. So I need to harvest the granaderos and add them to what's in the kitchen and freeze up another bag. I have another selection of pots coming in this coming week, and Henry and I unloaded 10 bags of potting soil yesterday, As Henry said, the next time he goes back, he'll buy another 10 if they have them, because we need to stockpile our potting soil so we have plenty of potting soil for this stuff in here and for all the new pots that'll be coming in. Because when the pots are in, I will probably start at least one more pot of carrots. My goal is to try and have a continuous supply of carrots this winter. I will probably start, I have a bunch of lettuce and stuff that needs to be potted up. That'll be fine. I'm going to clear out a couple more of these herb containers over here that they're just not doing much. They're kind of taking up space. They smell good when you bump into them, but the quality of the basil on those is not good enough to use. But I do have one basil seedling over here that I'm going to pot up into a intermediate size container. Not one of these guys, but something about that big. Lots going on. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously we have a lot going on, and there'll be lots more. We're going to be, we've just started planning for, well, I wouldn't say we've just started. We've just started purchasing stuff for next year. I've ordered some supplies. We're getting some early Christmas presents for ourselves. I will, once I've checked the quality, which I have pretty high confidence in, I will do a video about that. And then I will be making my lists for seeds. Right now, a bunch of the seeds that we would normally buy are not available, which I assume has to do with the fact that they have to come in from the field, then they have to be processed, and they have to have germination tests done, and all that sort of stuff. I like to order my seeds usually starting in December, January at the latest. I actually order seeds all year round because there's always something new going on or something like that, but my main orders of seeds normally go in December or January. I try, in the old days even, I tried not to get them done any later than February, because I would find that things that I really wanted would sometimes be sold out. And with the current circumstances and crop failures and all that stuff, which happens, always happens. I mean, there's always some sort of a crop failure somewhere. And that means it's a seed crop, and that means there's not enough to sell as seeds this year. So yeah, that's a problem that has nothing to do with shortages, except to create shortages. So until next time, bye. So she's sure to yes.